Hi everyone. Yes, this week it's going to be another stream about Jay Sebring and well Bruce Lee as well because there is a Bruce Lee angle to the Manson case and it ties in kind of because the inspiration for this was that last week someone asked in the chat, is there any evidence that Jay Sebring had a karate style fight on the porch because he was trained by Bruce Lee? And so yeah, I looked into that and the first thing that comes up is no, not karate because Bruce Lee was Chinese, so he did kung fu. He taught his own martial art called Jeet Kune Do, which is based off Wing Chun, a type of kung fu. So it would have been a kung fu fight if there was a fight, basically. And well, I'll get into it, but basically, no, there's not a lot of chance that he did. And yeah, I can. There's a demonstration of Bruce Lee doing Jeet Kune Do that I can show. And also, I found today a bit of footage of him training Sharon Tate. And the interesting thing I found was he taught two separate ways. He was like a choreographer to actors for the movie industry, but he also taught the combat style. And he taught the combat style to Roman Polanski and Steve McQueen, but not Jay Sebring and Sharon Tate. They were more likely to have been taught the Hollywood choreographed version because Jay Sebring was an actor. He was actually in Batman. I don't know if anyone's seen the clip of him in Batman, but all I've seen him do in that was a vase is falling off something and he has to dive and catch the vase. I've not seen the full clip, but yeah. But Jay Sebring did. There's no evidence that he had the combat version of the training. Basically, I'll get into it. Yeah, yeah. Was it fast as lightning? I've had that stuck in my head all week. Yeah. No, obviously, as soon as I found out it was kung fu. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the Sarah Mikhail, there's actually a tea light in there this week, so you can see what his function is. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, fast as lightning. It was a little bit frightening with all the mass textures on. He was fast as lightning. Yeah. Let's not get sidetracked quickly though, yeah, because there's quite a lot of slides to read out because of this. But also, I'm going to type because last week as well, if you watched last week's stream, I spent most of that. The point of that was explaining why you can basically trust the blood typing results of the blood evidence because yeah, not much they could have done even if they were contaminated could have actually changed the type result. The only thing that would have happened was they would have come back as inconclusive. And even if they sat for months or whatever, it wouldn't have made any difference. And Frykowski definitely was B type. That's in his autopsy. So anyone who's saying they mistyped Frykowski's blood is wrong. His autopsy report says he was B type. So you can base, though it cannot be discounted that they might have mislabeled something. But if they did mislabel it, it's only the porch. Everything else seems to add up. So actually, we pretty much should be able to trust the typing, basically. And so this week, yeah, I was going to tell you more about the attack on Jay on the porch and going to tie in with Bruce Lee as well, because Roman Polanski briefly suspected Bruce Lee had done it at one point as well. Like I say, we'll get into it. Welcome. I see Dawn and Jeremy are both here, which is good because you're both ill, aren't you? I'm praying I don't get ill. And someone else said they were ill as well. Yeah, because we've got a bad flu season this year in England, apparently. Dawn, you've got pneumonia, haven't you, you said? My God. Yeah, we'll get into it because people have asked, people said they were interested in the Bruce Lee angle, so I did this. I thought I'd do this for people, yeah. The Kung Fu fighting jokes are going already. I'll probably play it in the after show if people are about, yeah. I'll get on with it because there's a lot of slides to read out. Oh. What the blood evidence reveals about the Tate murders. Most accounts of the Tate murders start in the living room. The physical evidence doesn't. The bloodstains, impact patterns, and movement traces show that the real beginning is outside the front door. This presentation reconstructs that opening sequence using the forensics first, testimony second. Because yeah, basically, whenever ChatGPT reconstructs this, it says it looks like it started outside on the porch. Here, everything starts with measurable evidence, typed stains, wound angles, and documented positions. Witness stories are used only to support or test what the forensics already show. Wherever testimony conflicts with the physical record wins, basically. So just forget everything that you know from the Helter Skelter narrative because yeah, it's just showing what the blood evidence appears to show is what this did. Right, so the key exterior evidence. Outside the house, we have four critical elements. Sharon's blood at the threshold, Sebring's large pool on the porch, an O-type drop on the walkway, and a visibly crushed hedge. Crucially, there is no B-type blood on the porch, which rules out Frykowski as the source of the exterior stains. This is the footprint of the first assault. And I explained last week as well how it's actually plausible that even if Rakowski did flee across the porch, it's possible his blood didn't drip because the wound was in his leg and the muscle contracting and his clothes would have caught the blood. So it is actually plausible that there's no B-type blood on the porch, because that was what I always questioned. But apparently there is a reason why. Right, and then the porch blood here. G4 is Sharon Tate's blood. Its pattern, fine droplets plus a drag, matches close range impact while the victim is standing at the door. That places Sharon in the fight at the threshold, not passively inside. Her first injuries occur outside the living room. G5 is Sebring's blood. The volume and centralization mark it as a collapse point, not a transfer. Expirated blood indicates impaired breathing, consistent with the gunshot and deep chest wounds. Sebring's major bleed happens right here, outside the door. Yes, and this was the other thing. It says that there is actually evidence for a gun strike to Sebring. That could be how his blood got on the gun grip. Sebring's autopsy shows a very specific injury pattern on the left side of his face, considerable swelling, superficial abrasion, and a subcutaneous hemorrhage without fracture. This is classic blunt force trauma from a flat, dense object. A pistol grip would produce exactly this kind of injury. Heavy localized swelling, flattened abrasion, and deep bruising, but no bone fragmentation. SID also found O-type blood, Sebring's type, on the gun grip, recovered inside, which supports the interpretation that the pistol contacted him during the opening struggle. Importantly, coroners do not name a weapon unless the wound morphology is so distinctive that only one weapon class fits, e.g. cylindrical rod, fork-like implement, or gunshot wound. Blunt force facial trauma from a firearm butt looks similar to trauma from any other hard flat object, so the absence of the phrase struck with the gun in the autopsy is normal and does not argue against the event. The injuries remain entirely consistent with a pistol or grip blow. There is no gunshot residue report on Sebring, because they wouldn't have done that in 1969 for a victim, apparently. They'd only done that if they caught the criminal right after, obviously. But the wound path, expirated blood at G5, and porch geometry all indicates a very close range shot, likely within arm's reach. This aligns cleanly with the reconstruction. Strike to the face, Sebring goes down or stumbles, shooter steps in, fires into the front right chest, and Sebring collapses at G5. Sebring's gunshot wound enters at the front of the right upper chest near the axillary margin and travels backwards and slightly downwards, exiting out the back. This trajectory only makes sense if Sebring is facing his attacker at very close range, exactly where the porch blood pool G5 places him. The downward angle is consistent with Sebring either beginning to fall or being slightly lowered, relative to the shooter's stance after the pistol strike to the face. Once the bullet passed through his lung, he would have suffered instant respiratory compromise, explaining the expirated blood mixed into G5 and the lack of meaningful defensive movement. Afterward, the shot path confirms a front-facing porch confrontation, followed by immediate collapse exactly where the blood evidence shows he fell. Yeah, so like I say, that was interesting to hear that just because they don't describe the weapon as the handle of the gun, it doesn't mean that it wasn't. So, he could have been hit with that barrel of the gun. Someone said something about the autopsy report. The comment's gone by now. But yeah, it's not, absolutely just because the coroner didn't say that, it doesn't mean that it wasn't the gun, basically, that he was hit with. And his injuries are consistent with him being hit with the gun. And that pool of blood looks consistent with him getting shot there, falling down. If we move on, it gets to the stabbing as well. Sebring's stab wounds show consistent downward trajectories into both the chest and the back, a pattern that only makes sense if he was already on the ground when stabbing occurred. The autopsy reports no defensive wounds on the hands or forearms, confirming he was incapacitated before the knife assault. Crucially, the stab paths originate from different directions, not a single bearing. This is highly significant. It implies at least two attackers positioned around a prone or partially rotated Sebring, striking downward from multiple angles. Combined with the facial blow and close-range gunshot, the evidence shows Sebring was overwhelmed instantly on the porch and then stabbed while fully unable to defend himself. So it says the evidence. Oh yes, and I was going to share a link as well in the chat for the first time because there's a website that has the photos on. If so, people who want to see the photos because there's photos of Sebring's facial injuries, so you can see. I'll put it in the chat now, and I'll make sure it's in the description if you're watching this on playback. That this contains all the photos, so you can see how the swelling on Sebring's face, and he bled from his nose. He's got blood coming from his nose, and it also shows you all the positions that the people were left in, and you can see, excuse me, you can see the picture of Sharon and Jay's bodies in the living room, showing that there's less blood around Jay than there was around Sharon, basically, which is a point I tried to make. But yes, and that's also, they said it is consistent with more than one person stabbing him and them stabbing downward. So it's like he's already collapsed and then more than one person closed in and stabbed him. So who could that be? Tex and Linda, or Tex and Krenwinkel, or what? Because the times of death are all up in the air now as well because of the liver temperature. The liver temperatures are saying that Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring died first, and then Abigail Folger and Wojciech Frykowski died later. But the liver temperatures aren't the only thing that decides at a time of death, so that's like up in the air as well. It's getting very confusing, yeah. Yeah, this is the thing. People went back and moved the bodies about. That's not the subject of tonight's stream. I'm just talking about directly this. But we're told that Jay Sebring is shot and falls down and never leaves the living room, aren't we? So what's all this big pool of his blood outside? Is the crazy thing, yeah. Right, we'll get on with it because we get to the demonstration of Bruce Lee. I'll get to show you a bit of Bruce Lee in a minute. Right. Despite training with Bruce Lee in a Hollywood context, Sebring shows almost no defensive injuries. There's a single stab wound on the back of one hand and nothing on the palms, wrists, or forearms. That's not a fight profile. It's what you see when someone is neutralized so fast they never get their arms into play. So it's like he was hit in the face and stunned so quickly that he never even had a chance to really raise his arms and defend himself. So yeah, it's not that he didn't try. He was like knocked out instantly by being hit in the face, possibly with the gun. And the hedge beside the porch is visibly crushed down. That deformation matches body weight hitting or being forced into it. Combined with the G5 pull, it supports a sequence where Sebring is struck, shot, and either falls into or is driven into the bush before bleeding out on the porch. The lone O-type drop on the walkway doesn't belong to Frykowski or Folger, who were B-type. It likely comes from Sharon or Jay during movement. Its position shows that at least one of them was displaced outward towards the lawn while bleeding, which fits an active struggle outside the door. And this is thought to be Sharon's, but this doesn't come up on the SID sheet. It's unnumbered for some reason. And there's at 1 a.m., between 1 and 1:30 a.m., Tim Ireland, camp counsellor, heard a man shout, "Oh God, no, stop, stop, oh God, no, don't," for around 10 seconds from the direction of Cielo. This is a conscious, articulate plea, most likely Sebring seeing Sharon attacked. Forensically, this scream belongs to the few seconds before the gun strike and gunshot. At the moment of the scream, Sharon is already being threatened at the door and Sebring is stepping in. Frykowski is still free. No single attacker can realistically control all three, especially once shots and screams start. The geometry forces the conclusion that multiple assailants were active outside from the start. And why couldn't Sharon escape? Well, she had nowhere to go. With at least one attacker on Sebring, another engaging her, and someone blocking the route down the driveway, any attempt to run would hit a wall of bodies and weapons. The exterior evidence describes a brief chaotic ambush, not a situation where she simply failed to run. And it was a myth that Sharon was combat trained. Sharon's training with Bruce Lee is often exaggerated into real fighting experience. The photos tell a different story. She practiced high theatrical kicks and cooperative blocking sequences. This was choreography, movement for camera, not street self-defense. Never kick above the waist in a fight, Bruce Lee said. And Sharon's photos show nothing but high kicks. Bruce Lee famously warned students never to kick above the waist in a real fight. It's too slow and unstable. Yet every known training shot of Sharon shows high extended kicks. Bruce was clearly coaching her for visual effect, not survival. Her martial arts were never intended for a real knife ambush. And I didn't need to make a slide to show why a woman who's 8.5 months pregnant can't do her high kick like that. I'm sure, yeah, everyone can understand. And this is all she's shown doing. She's not really shown. Well, in this clip, though, she is actually shown doing a practical clip. We'll get to the clip in a minute. In one image, Bruce watches from behind as she throws a slow non contact kick. In another, he literally holds her leg in the air so she can hit the correct pose. He's not feeding attacks or holding shields, he's shaping lines for the camera. That's choreography, not combat drilling. None of this training helps on the porch. Yeah, and I could not find the picture again where he's grabbing her leg, but there is a picture, I swear, where he's holding her leg, he's helping her lift her leg higher. And obviously, that's not practical in fights. He taught people not to do that in real fights. But if you look at this picture again, she is aiming for his head here and he's ducking, so he's teaching her to kick at something here. But in these ones, she's not kicking at anything. He's just training her to pose, you know. Right, I'm going to show you the footage now, if I can get it on.
Keep the knee tucked in. Good. Now, when you extend, push the hip forward, not just the foot. Ready?
Ready.
Go. Ha! Not bad. Watch. Same move, but snap. See? Got it. Your turn. Ha! Much.
And that's it. That's literally it. I'll play it once more because it's so short. Look.
Keep the knee tucked in. Good. Now, when you extend, push the hip forward, not just the foot. Ready?
Ready.
Go. Ha! Not bad. Watch. Same move, but snap. See? Got it. Your turn. Ha! Much.
Oh. But yes, there's not much in there that's actually very practical, though, apparently. This footage is sometimes used to claim Bruce Lee trained Sharon Tate to fight. What it really shows is choreography instruction. Bruce is shaping her movement, posture, timing, footwork, and line of motion, so she can perform convincingly on screen. The drills are slow, cooperative, and non-impact. There's no sparring or conditioning, no defensive training, and nothing resembling the combat-oriented curriculum Bruce taught to Polanski or Steve McQueen. Sharon's sessions were about looking like she understood martial arts, not learning how to fight. Nothing in this footage suggests she had skills that could help her during the porch ambush. But the angle of her leg was that she was lined up to kick him in the groin, wasn't she? I won't click back to the footage again and watch it, yeah, but I'll make sure it's easy. It's easy to find on YouTube. Just type Bruce Lee Sharon Tate, you'll find it. But she was lined up to kick him in the groin, definitely, and that's a lower kick as well. What she was doing there, I've seen that. I like kung fu. I've watched a lot of kung fu movies. That is a kick they use in kung fu. So yeah. Yes, and this is, yeah, after the murders, Roman Polanski briefly suspected Bruce Lee, not out of malice, but because a pair of prescription glasses was found at Cielo Drive, and Roman knew Lee used glasses. Polanski had been trained by Lee in practical combat oriented Jeet Kune Do, and so had Steve McQueen. Lee taught these two men differently from how he taught Sharon Tate or Jay Sebring. Polanski and McQueen received contact drills, pressure-tested trapping sequences, and functional street fighting mechanics. Jay did not. His sessions with Lee were limited to Hollywood choreography and aesthetic movement. Polanski quickly dropped the suspicion once the glasses were proven not to belong to Lee, but the episode illustrates a real distinction. Lee differentiated between combat students and film students. Polanski and McQueen learned usable applied techniques. Sebring did not, which explains why no defensive wounds appear on his arms. He never had time, but also never had the foundational training that Polanski and McQueen received. Because yeah, I couldn't find anything that said he gave Jay Sebring the combat lessons. Roman Polanski, though, I found that interesting, and Steve McQueen had the actual Jeet Kune Do training. There's a gap at the beginning, and there's no sound on the actual demo as well. Yeah, and there is this black gap at the beginning, right? And he's actually blindfolded. You can't see it till he turns around, but for this first thing. Yes, but watch the arm moves he's doing. If Jay Sebring had been trying to block them, he would have had bruises or wounds on his arms, wouldn't he? There's no way. So he completely drops this guy twice. It's quite good. Yeah, and he's blindfolded, as you see. They once there. His technique seems to involve a lot of trying to go for their eyes. I noticed as well. It looks like he's trying to poke him in the eye half the time. Seems to be his major thing. Then again, yeah. And this is a much longer demonstration. I won't show all of it, but because that gets the point across about the arm blocking technique. So yeah, if Jay Sebring had tried to do anything like that, obviously he would have had marks on his arms, wouldn't he? There. In the 1967 demo, Bruce shows what actual defensive mechanics look like. Lead hand out, forearms meeting incoming strikes, quick parries and traps. If someone used these motions against a knife, their arms would be in the line of fire. Hands, wrist and forearms would almost certainly pick up cuts. If Sebring had parried, trapped or blocked with forearms, we'd expect palm cuts, wrist lacerations, forearm slash wounds. But his autopsy shows none of these. If Sebring had time to use anything like the parries from the demo, even clumsy versions, his arms would show it. Cuts on the palms, slices along the ulna, defensive wounds on the back of his hands. Instead, there is just one stab wound on one hand. This confirms he was neutralized almost immediately, struck, shot, and then stabbed while already down. So yeah, they just mercilessly attacked them. He was knocked out, before he could try to defend himself by the sound of things. Put together, the stains and injuries form a coherent sequence. Sharon is attacked at the door. Sebring protests and moves in. He's hit and shot, collapsing at G5. Sharon bleeds outward towards the walkway, but is cut off. The attackers then drive the survivors back inside. The real beginning is outside. Right, yeah, and this is a separate thing, because I thought I could say, because there's more about his death that's come out recently, because I hadn't really heard anything about his death since the 90s, when my friends who were into Kung Fu, there was a documentary that came out, and you would have to have ordered a VHS of it from a Kung Fu magazine at the time. It was that long ago, like in the late 90s. Because Bruce Lee's name is entangled with this case through Sharon and Sebring, it's worth briefly applying the same evidence-first approach to his own death. The myths around Bruce are so persistent as those around Cielo Drive, and just as far from the medical record. Common myths about Bruce Lee's death is that he died of a heart attack, that he was assassinated by Chinese triads, some kind of exotic poison, there was a curse on his family, or he was just too fit to live, which is the painkiller thing. The story people think they know is that Bruce died of a heart attack, or that he was killed for teaching secrets to Westerners. None of that aligns with the autopsy. There was no blocked artery, no poison pattern, and no evidence of homicide. Right? Who heard though that he died of a heart failure or a heart attack? I always heard that it was heart attack, right? But I'll show you his real cause of death on the next slide. Let's see if anyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, everyone else can hear me, can't you? Yeah, sorry. No, I thought yeah. I thought Dawn said, "Are you there?" No. Right, but yeah, everyone said that he died of you heard he choked on a ham sandwich. Yeah, like Cass Elliot. Yeah. Yeah, everyone else heard, that he. Has anyone else heard anything other than he died of a heart attack? Because that was what I always heard, and it was something to do with an analgesic pill that he took that he had a reaction to, which was actually the official verdict at the time. But we'll get to that. Anyway, listen to this. Right, the actual medical facts are he died on the 20th of July 1973 in Hong Kong, aged 32. He was found unresponsive at Betty Ting Pai's flat. He actually died of cerebral edema, brain swelling. His brain was 13% heavier than normal. Bruce was living and working in Hong Kong when he died. The autopsy showed a massively swollen brain, enough to be fatal on its own. That's the cause of death. His heart stopped because the brain failed, not the other way around. So it was actually brain swelling, not a heart attack, that killed him. It wasn't his heart. His heart only stopped because his brain was so swollen. And he actually had his sweat glands removed. Right, in 1972, Bruce had his armpit sweat glands removed so he wouldn't appear sweaty on screen. Humans still sweat elsewhere, but this does blunt part of the body's cooling system. In a hot, humid environment, under heavy exertion, that can matter. Yes, I didn't know that, but he actually had surgery to have the sweat glands in his armpits removed so he wouldn't sweat on camera. because he wanted to look cool and like he wasn't making a lot of effort. He didn't want to look like he was breaking a sweat, obviously, did he? But that may have damaged him, basically. They're saying it might have caused him to be overheating because it's really hot in Hong Kong at the time of year that they were. Hong Kong summer heat and humidity, very low body fat and intense training. May 1973, previous collapse with brain swelling, known sensitivity to heat stress. 2 months before his death, Bruce collapsed in a hot dubbing room and was treated for cerebral edema, the same condition that later killed him. That earlier incident is a major red flag for heat intolerance or impaired cooling, especially in Hong Kong's climate. So he collapsed with cerebral edema a couple of months before he died of the same condition, basically. And I also read when I was researching this earlier, he apparently threatened a director with a knife shortly before he died as well. And there's an interview of him talking about that, and that's the last time he was ever seen publicly. And I also found an autopsy picture of him on the slab, and you can see, his face is really puffy, like he swelled up with water. Right, one plausible explanation is straightforward heat stroke. Bruce was training hard in high heat with slightly compromised cooling. Heat stroke is a known pathway to fatal brain swelling. It doesn't explain every detail, but it fits the broad outline. And there's the hyponatremia hypothesis as well. In a 2022 medical paper, argued Bruce might have suffered hyponatremia, water intoxication. Drinking large amounts of water without enough sodium can cause rapid brain swelling. It's another medically realistic route to the cerebral edema noted at autopsy. So to try and cool himself down, he may have drunk too much water. He may have been drinking too much water, and that's what did it as well. A combination of things. The official story is that Bruce had an unusual reaction to an analgesic. That's possible, but many physicians think it's only part of the picture. Taken alone, it doesn't account well for his prior collapse or the environmental stresses he was under. Because I remember when I was younger hearing the theory that he was just so fit and he never took any drugs at all, not even painkillers, that taking a painkiller gave him a reaction and that was why he died. But no, I don't think it was that. At all. And also, there's rumours that he did do drugs as well now, I've heard, that Jay Sebring used to supply him, that he wasn't actually as clean as everyone thought. Yeah, he just overdosed on water, basically. Maybe because he was hot, he drank too much water. But having the sweat glands removed might have made him overheat as well. Yeah, and I just thought I'd bring this up to maybe laugh. Bruce came from an era where heroes weren't supposed to look drenched and exhausted. He wanted to appear in control, fast and precise, barely breaking a sweat. Removing the underarm glands matched that visual ideal, but may have nudged his physiology in the wrong direction under extreme heat. By the 1980s, action heroes were built like bodybuilders and often filmed slick with sweat, sometimes literally sprayed down to show muscle definition. Bruce's stripped down, dry aesthetic is the opposite. Both eras show how image demands push bodies towards risk, just in different directions. So it struck me, just like 20 years later, the guys were literally sprayed down with sweat, weren't they? And they were all massive and on steroids and everything. How the times change. But but those guys are usually some of them are in their 50s, aren't they? And they're obviously taking steroids to build the amount of muscle they built and all that. It's fucking very dangerous business being a Hollywood actor. But Bruce Lee having his sweat glands removed could have contributed to his death. I reckon. He actually was overheating, and that was what was causing him to keep getting cerebral edema. Yeah. Right. He died from brain swelling, cerebral edema, triggered by some mix of overheating, impaired cooling, water imbalance, and medication. The best reading of the evidence is that Bruce Lee died from cerebral edema driven by physiological stress, not from a heart attack or a hit. Overheating, water balance problems, and drugs probably all contributed. The exact mix can't be pinned down now, but the cause was medical, not mystical. So there's no evidence he was poisoned by, a triad or anything like that. And like I say, I had always heard he died of a heart attack, but he didn't die of a heart attack apparently. He died of brain swelling. And it was probably a combination of many different things, and the fact he'd had the sweat glands removed. Like I keep repeating, probably contributed. And so two legend and the same rule. Follow the evidence, not the legend. Whether we're talking about Zero Drive or Bruce Lee, folklore obscures reality. The porch scene shows something very different from the official Tate narrative, and Bruce's autopsy shows something very different from the heart attack myth. When you strip away stories and follow the blood, the wounds, and the medical data, a clearer, sharper history emerges. So yeah, that's it basically. That's all the slides. I'll show some more of his demonstration since we're only 35 minutes in. People like watching Bruce Lee fight, I suppose, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, and it's a few minutes long. But there's bits where he's where he's just talking and where there's no sound. Obviously, I'll fast forward over those bits. But yeah, it's interesting. A lot of legends about both these people, and also Steve McQueen. If you watch the Steve McQueen stream, I show Steve McQueen at Bruce Lee's funeral. He carried his coffin, as the same as Jay Sebring. He carried Jay Sebring's coffin, which is another weird connection between all these people. Yeah, yeah. Let's watch some more of his demonstration. Yeah, the AI could try and tell me what all the different moves are at the different points, but yeah, I thought no, I'll just watch it. Fast forward to when he's just stood talking. Obviously, it's no good without the sound, is it? And the whole thing's on YouTube. Like you can find it yourself and watch it. Oh yeah, this guy really. I think that was best punch because look, he hangs his head and he's lost. So I think yeah, that was if he'd actually followed that through, you'd see it. But yeah, I'm not certain. Videos of Sean dancing. I was thinking of looking at looking for clips of her in the Wrecking Crew because that's what he trained her for. Too late to find it now though. Yeah, yeah, I remember this goes on for ages. I'll fast forward it a bit because yeah, if you could hear him, it'd be all right, wouldn't it? But yeah, it's kind of. But look how far he hit him though. Look, he fell back into. You see how far he chucks people with just one blow. Yeah, yeah, he was. He was tiny. Yeah, come on. Oh yeah, and apparently the Jeet Kune Do was also inspired with fencing timing, the sport fencing. It was a combination of Wing Chun Kung Fu and Taekwondo, like kickboxing and boxing, and fencing timing. I learned whilst researching this. So this is probably why they're wearing like fencing type masks. This is a demonstration of that. Hard to tell which one's even Bruce Lee, isn't it, with the mask on? Excuse me. Hope the mic didn't pick that up too much. Yeah, there's not really much I could say. Like I said, I could have lined up commentary to show you, to tell you exactly what he's actually doing, but I thought no. Yeah, but this definitely looks like fencing gear they're wearing, doesn't it? So yeah, this must be the fencing inspired stuff. See, that was quite a high kick he did there, though, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Martial arts are all about blocking your opponent and using their own weight against them and that, so they can be surprisingly successful. If the person doesn't know what to expect, you'd be surprised. You probably could, because they react before you hit them and block you, knock your blow away, and get in first. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they're having, well, like I say, having is, oh, come on, it went off again. Having the adrenal, the not adrenal glands, the sweat glands removed, like I just said, though, yeah, as well. But yeah, I don't know if he was. I didn't read anything about that. Him taking cortisone. But no, he didn't. He didn't look that muscular to me. To be quite, he looked. Yeah, he looked like he had a natural amount of muscle. He had a very low body fat, but he didn't look like he was steroid muscular. Because also you got to remember he was short, so they look bulkier than they are. You know, because they haven't got very long limbs. So yeah. What is that? It? Yeah, that was it. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think he looked steroid enhanced really. Yeah. But he definitely had, yeah, really low body fat, which is what looking shredded is all about, isn't it? Yeah. And they also dehydrate themselves deliberately to look more muscular, don't they? You know, bodybuilders do that on the day that they're doing a show. They don't dehydrate themselves as much as possible. So he might have been then suddenly drinking loads of water because he dehydrated himself to look good on camera, and he overloaded his brain. You know, his body couldn't process it. Yeah, if it takes all the sodium out of your system, it can overload you. Apparently, yeah. And the fact that he had collapsed from it 2 months before or 3 months before is interesting as well. Yeah, but it's probably a combination of things. Like I say, yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he did take steroids, but I don't think he'd look big enough to be on steroids. He'd be bigger if he was on steroids. Because the amount he worked out, obviously, you know, doing that all day, every day, the training that they martial artists do. Don't know whether he weightlifted as well. Whether he would have, probably would have, though, wouldn't he? Yeah, to look ripped. All the Hollywood dudes did. Yeah, yeah. I don't know about his diet as well. Comment, yeah. That's it. Yeah, I don't know much about his drug history, but I've heard, yeah, rumours since I started reading about Jay Sebring that Jay Sebring supplied him coke, so he did do coke when he was in the US anyway. Mm. Yeah. Although what there is a clip about of Jackie Chan talking about Bruce Lee and how fast he was, saying yeah he was very fast basically. I didn't watch it, yeah, but I saw the thumbnail for it. Yeah, like I said, I was researching clips of Bruce Lee and that earlier. There's quite a lot out there. Yeah, but so that's cocaine. Maybe he did, and yeah, well, weed. Someone else just said they've only did weed, but who knows? I wouldn't be surprised. Be pretty boring in California in the '60s if you didn't do any of these things, wouldn't it? So yeah, maybe he did a bit, yeah. But obviously, physical fitness mattered to him a lot, didn't it? So I doubt he went overboard with these things. And there was nothing to suggest he overdosed on anything, and it could have been a reaction to the painkiller that he took. But there's loads of other things that could also have contributed to it. And like I say, the fact it happened to him 3 months before makes me think there was some kind of pre-existing medical condition causing it. You know. Hmm. Yeah, I might end this now and go to an after show because yeah, I got through those slides quicker than I thought I would. Should have paused to talk more. But yeah, like I say, if you didn't see last week's stream, watch that because that sort of goes a long way to explaining how Yeah, though the blood evidence is not going to be 100% reliable, and you can't totally rule out that he mislabeled the blood. It would be like a lot of stains for him to mislabel all in one block and every. Oh shit! I just made it zoom in now. Back out again. There you go. Makes it all for him to have just mislabeled the stains in one block, like on the porch, and to have got all the stains, going out the back door, showing Abigail Folger ran out the back. Right, seems a bit, implausible, really. If it was only one or two, if there was like only one of the stains showed up as Jay and Sharon, and everything else was B, then you'd think, oh yeah, maybe he mislabeled one. But to mislabel all those different stains outside. And if you were going to fake it as well, that was my thought as well. If you were going to deliberately tamper with the results, why wouldn't you make all that B blood on the porch? Because that would back up the story that Frykowski and Folger are the only ones that went outside. Why would you make it Jay and Sharon's if you were trying to falsify anything? Doesn't make sense, does it? Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, I'll end this now, and we'll do an after show. Is Jeremy there yet? Are you back yet? He said he was going to let his dogs out, isn't he? But yeah, he can join me on the after show if he wants to. I know he's ill though. Everyone's ill, aren't they? Yeah, I'll end this early today. Everyone go to sleep. Everyone's dying. Hope people enjoyed the Bruce Lee stuff anyway. But yeah, that is like most of what there is about the case. It's just Roman briefly thought that he might have committed the murders because of the glasses, but he also thought it was John Phillips, didn't he, as well? So yeah, just crazy times when people got really paranoid. Everyone in Hollywood did. Yeah. Yeah, and this is well, what's implied, isn't it? Yeah, that Jay was left out on the porch and was moved by the crew, the cleanup crew later. Yeah. Well, the chat the AI there was saying they were moved back after he'd bled on the porch. Yeah, as if he was still alive when he was moved in. But I think he was pretty much dead by the time they moved him back in. He'd been lying there bleeding for a long time. That's my opinion. But yeah, anyway, I'll end this. And next week, next week I'll tell you what we've got next week because it can analyse the attack patterns. Because I asked it what angles are there that other people don't talk about, and it says the attack pattern between Abigail Folger and Rosemary LaBianca builds a picture of Patricia Krenwinkel, and we know she was helped by Leslie. And yeah, there's some disturbing stuff about Leslie because everyone pretty much believes that Leslie only stabbed the corpse. But actually, there's stuff about those wounds on Rosemary's lower back that proves she was alive when those wounds happened as well. But yeah, so that's one of the things that we talk about next week, basically. Yeah. So it's like an offender profile of Krenwinkel's stabbing of Abigail and Rosemary. So it's a good chance to talk about the LaBiancas again because we don't talk about the LaBiancas enough. Because the LA Drive is more in the public mind because of the public figures that died there. But yeah, the LaBianca's murders were just as horrible, and they deserve to be remembered as well. There's people that died horribly. Poor people. Mm. Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, don't matter how hard he fought, it's hard to beat a gun. Yeah, and it sounds like he was just knocked out. He couldn't wake up. He couldn't. He didn't have a chance. He was hit in the face with something hard, and then collapsed, stunned, and then they closed in and started stabbing him. But his wounds are consistent with more than one person stabbing him as well. Crazy. Yeah, anyway, like I say, keep saying end it. I'll end it now. Right. And I'll see you in about 5 minutes for the after show if you want an after show. Or next week, yeah.